I want you to think about the last time you found yourself checking your phone every few minutes, waiting for a text that wasn't coming. Maybe it's happening right now. Maybe you're watching this video with one eye on the screen and one eye on your notifications, hoping that somehow watching this will make him text you back faster. If that's you, I need you to hear something before we go any further. You are not crazy. You are not needy. You are not asking for too much. What you're feeling right now is one of the most painful experiences a human being can go through. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why it hurts this much. And more importantly, you're going to understand exactly what to do about it. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. There is a very specific mistake that almost every woman makes when a man stops investing in her. It's not an obvious mistake. It doesn't look like weakness from the outside. In fact, it often looks like love. It looks like patience. It looks like loyalty. But underneath it, this mistake is quietly destroying your self-worth one day at a time. And I promise you, once I explain it, you will recognize it in your own life immediately. So stay with me, because this is going to be one of the most important 25 minutes you spend on yourself this year. Let's start with the pain, because I don't want to rush past it. I want to sit in it for a moment, because I think you deserve to feel understood before you feel fixed. You know that specific kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to figure someone out? Not the tired that comes from working all day, a different kind of tired. The tired that comes from replaying a conversation in your head 15 times, trying to find the moment where things changed. You remember when he used to text first thing in the morning just to say good morning. You remember when he made plans a week in advance because he couldn't wait to see you. And now, you're the one initiating everything. You're the one asking, are we still doing something this weekend? You're the one wondering if you texted too much or not enough or the wrong thing. There's a woman I'll call Maya. Maya is 31. She works in marketing. She's smart. She's put together. She has friends who adore her. And for the last 4 months, she has been slowly disappearing inside a relationship with a man who used to make her feel like the center of the universe. In the beginning, he called her every night. He remembered small details like the name of her childhood dog or the fact that she hated cilantro. And then, slowly, without any dramatic fight, without any clear reason, he pulled back. The calls became texts. The texts became shorter. The plans became vague. And Maya did what so many of us do. She told herself she was overreacting. She told herself he was just busy. She told herself that if she just gave him a little more patience, a little more understanding, a little more of herself, he would come back to the man he used to be. This is the pain amplification part of this video. And I want to be honest with you. This part is not comfortable to watch, but it's necessary because you cannot heal what you refuse to look at directly. When someone stops investing in you, your brain does something cruel. It starts searching for reasons that put the blame on you. Maybe I'm not exciting enough. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I'm too much or not enough or too available or not available enough. Your brain does this because uncertainty is unbearable. And blaming yourself feels, strangely, more comfortable than accepting that someone you love might simply be choosing not to show up for you the way they used to. It's easier to believe you can fix yourself into being loved again than to accept that love, real love, was never supposed to require fixing yourself in the first place. And this is where the real damage happens. Not in the moment he stops texting back quickly, not in the moment he cancels plans. The real damage happens in the months afterward, when you slowly, quietly, start shrinking yourself to match the space he's willing to give you. You stop mentioning how you feel because you don't want to seem dramatic. You stop asking for what you need because you don't want to seem needy. You start accepting less and less and less until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the woman staring back at you because she used to have standards. And somewhere along the way, she traded them for crumbs. Here's a quote I want you to remember because I think it captures exactly what's happening in moments like this. The problem isn't that he stopped chasing you. The problem is that you started chasing him and calling it love. Read that again if you need to, because chasing someone who has stopped choosing you isn't romantic. It isn't devotion. It's a slow erosion of the very thing that made you attractive to him in the first place, which is your sense of self. Now, here's where we get to the big reframe. The one truth that's going to change how you see this entire situation. Most women believe that if a man isn't investing in them, the solution is to invest more, to try harder, to be more patient, more understanding, more available, more accommodating. This feels logical on the surface. If something is broken, you fix it by putting in more effort, right? Wrong. And this is the mistake that this entire video is built around. Because relationships don't work like construction projects. They work like ecosystems. And ecosystems don't need more input from one side. They need balance. Here's the truth that changes everything. A relationship is not something one person builds while the other person watches. It is something two people build together, brick by brick, in equal measure. And when one person stops laying bricks, the answer is never for the other person to start laying twice as many, because all that does is create a lopsided structure that eventually collapses under its own imbalance, and it collapses onto the person who kept building. Think about a business partnership for a moment, because this analogy will make everything click. Imagine you and a business partner start a company together. In the beginning, you both put in equal capital, equal hours, equal ideas. But over time, your partner starts showing up late, missing deadlines, not answering emails, not contributing new ideas. What would a smart business person do in that situation? Would they say, well, my partner isn't contributing, so I better work twice as hard to cover for both of us? No. A smart business person would sit down and have a direct conversation. They would say, this partnership only works if we're both invested. If you're not going to hold up your end, I need to know now, because I'm not going to carry this business alone while you take half the profits. That's not coldness. That's self-respect. And yet in romantic relationships, we do the exact opposite. We see the imbalance, and instead of addressing it directly, we quietly absorb it, hoping our extra effort will somehow shame the other person into matching us. It rarely works that way. In fact, it usually does the opposite. When you overinvest to compensate for someone else's underinvestment, you actually make it easier for them to stay checked out because they know the relationship will keep running whether they show up or not. You've become the engine and the passenger at the same time. And eventually, you run out of fuel. Let's talk about Sarah for a moment, because her story shows this pattern in a different light. Sarah dated a man named Daniel for almost 2 years. In the first year, Daniel was consistent, present, affectionate. In the second year, something shifted. He started working longer hours, or so he said. He started being vague about his weekends. Sarah, instead of asking directly what was happening, started planning elaborate date nights to win back his attention. She cooked his favorite meals. She surprised him with tickets to his favorite team's games. She initiated every single conversation, every single plan, every single moment of connection. And Daniel, rather than stepping back into the relationship, simply continued to lean back. Because Sarah had unintentionally made it clear that the relationship would survive no matter how little he contributed. This is not Sarah's fault. I want to be very clear about that. Sarah wasn't weak or foolish. Sarah was doing what she had been taught, consciously or unconsciously, that a good partner does. Society tells women especially that love means sacrifice, that devotion means never giving up, that patience is a virtue that will eventually be rewarded. But patience without reciprocity isn't a virtue. It's a slow motion abandonment of yourself. Here's another quote worth remembering. You cannot love someone into investing in you. Investment is a choice they make, not a reward you earn. This is the mountain climbing analogy, and I think it's one of the most powerful ways to understand this. Imagine two people climbing a mountain together, roped to each other for safety. If one person stops climbing, stops pulling their weight, the other person doesn't just keep climbing for both of them. They can't. The rope would eventually pull them backward, or worse, pull them off the mountain entirely. Real climbing partners check in with each other. They match pace. They adjust together. If one person needs to stop, they stop together and figure it out. Or they acknowledge that maybe this particular climb isn't one they should continue as a team. Relationships require the same rhythm. You cannot climb for two people forever. Eventually, gravity wins. Now let's move into the core lessons, because understanding the problem is only half of this video. The other half is giving you something to actually do with what you now understand. The first lesson is this: stop mistaking effort for evidence. So many women use their own effort as proof that the relationship is worth saving. I've put in so much time, so much energy, so much love. It has to work out eventually. But effort is not evidence of compatibility. Effort is just effort. You could pour your entire heart into a relationship with someone who is fundamentally not capable of meeting you there, and your effort wouldn't change that fact. It would only exhaust you trying. The presence of your love does not guarantee the presence of his. These are two separate things, and confusing them is what keeps so many women stuck in relationships that are quietly starving them. The second lesson is learning to read investment through actions, not promises. Words are cheap, and I don't say that cynically. I say it because it's true. A man who says, "I love you, I just have a lot going on right now," but never makes time for you, is showing you his actual priorities through his behavior, even while his words say something different. Think of it like a garden. You can talk about wanting a beautiful garden all day long, but if you never water it, never weed it, never tend to it, the garden will not grow simply because you spoke kindly about it. Investment is watering. Investment is showing up in the small, unglamorous moments, not just the big declarations. If someone talks about commitment, but never shows up in the daily watering of your relationship, the garden of your connection is dying, no matter how beautifully he describes what it could become. The third lesson, and this might be the hardest one to hear, is that you have to become willing to lose the relationship in order to save yourself. This sounds counterintuitive, I know, but here's the psychology behind it. As long as you are more afraid of losing him than you are committed to your own standards, he will always have more power in the relationship than you do, whether he's doing it intentionally or not. The moment you become willing to say calmly and without manipulation, "I love you, and I also love myself enough to not accept less than I deserve," everything shifts. Not because you're playing games, not because you're trying to manipulate him into chasing you, but because you've stopped negotiating with your own worth. And people can feel that shift, even if they can't name it. There's a man named Marcus who told me once about the moment his girlfriend stopped chasing him. He said, "I didn't even realize how much space she was giving me until she stopped filling it. And the silence made me realize how much I actually missed her effort. because I had gotten used to her being the one who kept us close. Now, I'm not telling you this to suggest that pulling back is a manipulation tactic to win someone back. That's not the point. And if that's your intention, it will backfire because people can sense desperation dressed up as strategy. The real shift has to come from genuinely valuing yourself enough to stop overextending, regardless of whether he notices or not. The fourth lesson is about identifying the difference between a season of struggle and a pattern of neglect. This is important because I don't want you leaving this video thinking that every difficult month in a relationship means you should walk away. Life has storms, job loss, grief, health issues, family crises. During real storms, even good, loving partners can become distracted, withdrawn, less present than usual. The key difference is this. A partner going through a storm will still, even in small ways, acknowledge your needs, apologize for the distance, make efforts to reconnect once the storm passes. A partner who has simply stopped investing will treat the distance as normal, will offer no acknowledgement, no repair, no effort to close the gap, storm or no storm. Think of it like weather versus climate. A single storm doesn't change the climate of a relationship. But if the storms never stop, if the sky never clears, at some point you have to accept that this isn't weather anymore. It's the permanent forecast. The fifth lesson, and this is where we bring everything together, is that your standards are not a threat to love. They are the foundation of it. Somewhere along the way, many women learn to fear their own standards, worrying that having expectations will scare men away, that needing consistency or effort or reciprocity makes them too much. I need you to hear this clearly. A person who is scared away by your reasonable standards was never going to meet them in the first place. Your standards aren't the problem. They are the filter that protects you from investing years of your life into someone who was never capable of matching your effort. Here's a quote to hold on to. Confidence isn't waiting to be chosen. Confidence is choosing yourself first, every single time. Let's talk about the iceberg for a moment, because I think this image will stay with you. What you see on the surface of a relationship, the texts, the dates, the conversations, that's only 10% of what's actually happening. Underneath the surface is the real structure, the 90% that determines whether the whole thing stays afloat or eventually causes a collision. That 90% is made up of things like consistency, effort, emotional availability, and mutual investment. You cannot fix an iceberg by polishing the tip. If the mass underneath the water isn't solid, no amount of surface level effort will keep the whole thing from eventually sinking. This is why grand gestures in the middle of consistent neglect rarely fix anything. A beautiful date night doesn't rebuild an iceberg that's been melting from beneath for months. So let's talk about what you actually do with all of this. This is the transformation section. And I want you to think of this less like advice and more like a set of tools you can pick up and use starting today. The first tool is what I call the pause and observe method. The next time you feel the urge to reach out first, to fill silence, to plan something because he hasn't, pause, just for a day or two. Not to punish him, not to play games, but to actually observe what happens in the absence of your effort. This isn't about manipulation, it's about information. You cannot know the true state of a relationship if you're constantly covering for the gaps. Pausing lets you see the relationship as it actually is, not as you're artificially propping it up to be. The second tool is direct, calm communication, without over-explaining or apologizing for having needs. Instead of hinting, instead of dropping subtle comments hoping he'll pick up on your feelings, say it plainly. I've noticed we've been less connected lately, and I wanted to check in with you about that. Watch how he responds. Does he engage with genuine reflection? Or does he deflect, minimize, or make you feel guilty for bringing it up? His response to a calm, direct conversation will tell you almost everything you need to know about whether this is a temporary rough patch or a long-term pattern. The third tool is rebuilding your identity outside of the relationship. This is crucial because so much of the anxiety that comes from someone pulling away is amplified by the fact that we've made them the center of our entire emotional world. Reinvest in your friendships. Reinvest in your hobbies, your career, your physical health, the parts of your life that existed before this relationship and will exist after it, regardless of how it turns out. This isn't a distraction technique. It's a return to wholeness. A woman who has a full life is far less likely to accept crumbs from a relationship because she has too much else nourishing her to settle for scarcity in one area. The fourth tool is learning to sit with discomfort without immediately fixing it. This is maybe the hardest skill of all, because our instinct, especially for women who have been conditioned to be caretakers and peacekeepers, is to resolve tension as quickly as possible. But some tension needs to exist for a while in order for real clarity to emerge. If you rush to smooth things over every single time, you never actually find out what would happen if you let the discomfort breathe. Growth in relationships and in yourself almost always requires tolerating some short-term discomfort in exchange for long-term truth. Let's think about sports for a moment, because I think this final analogy ties everything together beautifully. Think about a basketball team where one player is doing all the running, all the shooting, all the defending, while their teammate stands in the corner, barely moving. No coach in the world would tell that hard-working player, just run faster, shoot more, cover more ground. A good coach would pull the underperforming player aside and say, you need to show up or you need to sit on the bench. Relationships need the same coaching mentality applied to yourself. You are allowed to say, internally and sometimes out loud, I am not going to keep playing this game alone. Here's one more quote, because I think it deserves its own moment. You don't lose someone by having standards. You lose yourself by lowering them. As we come toward the end of this video, I want you to sit with something important. Everything I've shared with you today isn't about becoming cold or distant or turning love into a strategic game. It's about restoring the natural balance that healthy relationships require. The balance where both people are reaching toward each other, both people are investing, both people are choosing this again and again, not out of fear of losing the other person, but out of genuine desire to build something together. If you're watching this and recognizing your own relationship in Maya's story or Sarah's story, I want you to know that recognizing the pattern is already the hardest part. The awareness you now have is not meant to make you feel foolish for the time you've already invested. It's meant to be the turning point where you stop repeating the same pattern in the months and years ahead. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are simply, finally, seeing clearly. And here's the empowering truth to carry with you. The right relationship will never require you to shrink, to chase, to overextend, or to convince someone to want you. The right relationship will feel like two people building the same structure, brick by brick, side by side, neither one carrying the weight alone. You deserve that. Not because you're perfect, but because that is simply what love, real love, is supposed to feel like. You are worthy of being chosen consistently, not just occasionally. You are worthy of a love that doesn't require you to audition for it every single day. And the moment you start believing that, truly believing it, you will find yourself naturally stepping back from relationships that ask you to prove your worth and stepping toward the kind of love that simply recognizes it. If this video spoke to something you've been feeling, something you haven't quite been able to put into words until now, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because I put out videos like this every single week. Videos designed to help you understand yourself, your relationships, and your own worth on a deeper level. If you found value in this, tap that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach other people who might need to hear this exact message today. And before you go, I want to ask you something in the comments below. Have you ever found yourself over-investing in someone who wasn't matching your effort? And what made you finally realize it? I read every single comment, and I'd love to hear your story, because someone else watching this might need to hear it too. Take care of yourself this week. Choose yourself first. I'll see you in the next video.